Everyone, welcome to another episode of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. With me tonight, Billy Beeman and Jake Kornblum. What's going on, guys?
Well, I'm not doing nearly as good as Jake. He's obviously been paid out over there, just stretching nice and neat. But I'm licking my wounds. And I just want to die. I want to die. This is it hurts. It hurts. 8 semis, 4 finals, 1 championship does not feel good. I just got to say it does not feel good. So yeah, it's a. I mean, a little bittersweet, really fun season. But yeah, man, how you doing, Jake?
I'm doing better than you, man. I guess in that same conversion funnel, I went from 9 semis, 8 semis, 9 to 8 to 3 finals, and won all 3, which was a great feeling.
It's a lot better than me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, and I'm sure it was down to like similar plays too. Like that Puka catch in the back of the end zone would have fucking killed me.
There's 2 Puka plays. There's 2 Puka touchdowns called back last night.
Yeah. Let's keep it that way.
Awful refs. I mean,
saved me. But yeah, no, it's I'm feeling good. I know we don't typically shout out people who won the DU leagues, but I just wanted to quickly shout out some of our listeners. We got Big Boy in DU2 winning in DU2, and we got in DU5, I believe it was. Josh, shout out Josh. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, Uriah and I took home the other leagues, so just a little pat on the back for Uriah and I. Yeah. Billy, you can suck it. Thanks for sending me. I love you. All right, Uriah,
I was in third in multiple of those. I was around. I was hanging around.
Honestly, I don't think it could have gone much better for me. Obviously, DU5 kind of sucks, but it is what it is. The sting kind of gets taken out of it because we split the pot like early in the week. And I really thought I had it in the bag anyway, but my team just absolutely took a shit. So I came in second, so I don't get the crown, but I technically get more money than I would have. Took home 4. Didn't think I'd take home 4. Got my buyback in 3. Got the 113 in DU2.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really ask for a better result.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Definitely pretty good showing from the DU hosts and the DU league. So congrats to everybody there and any of the listeners who did win. I know Joe was in there too. I think he came in second in it, maybe 2 of them. And yeah, I think he came in second in DU2 and DU3. So congrats on that. It was pretty close there. I think Jake won one of those by maybe less than a point or less than 2 points, something close, very close. So good stuff, man.
Cool. All right, let's hop into it. So let's talk some news and some nonsense. I do just want to say as a PSA that it is okay after this excruciating, long, grinding season, take a break. There's absolutely nothing you need to do like between today and next Tuesday. Like you can literally take a week off. It's fine. You don't even have to look at your teams. Like just make sure you're getting paid and you can step away for a little bit. It's all right.
Effort and commitment. No, yeah, definitely need to take some time and relax for sure. Yeah, just enjoy the Week 18 football and maybe step back into it after that. But I think there's some stuff we can take advantage of. As we head into the NFL playoffs too.
Absolutely. All right, so now on to the part that contradicts everything I just said. But hey, let's take advantage of some narrative and some outcome bias in the playoffs. Let's the exploit role, over interpretation, and sell playoff heroes, not breakouts. What do you got here? Want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that with the playoffs rolling around, I've seen it actually, most of the years I've been in Dynasty, there are some trades that happen later in the playoffs and right after, and it's kind of based on what happened in the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that you can, when we're talking about like narrative bias or outcome bias, I think that, you can come up with, overselling somebody's role in the playoffs who you can probably foresee not maintaining that role just because they were on a run, they needed X player, whatever it was, those kind of things. Or the opposite way, of course, right? Like if, you know, a stud or two don't perform, right? That's the last thing that somebody sees. That's like the outcome bias, right? The last thing you see, it's going to negatively impact your, you know, the valuation potentially. And you may be able to get that player for, you know, less than you would otherwise. So I think that's really the idea there. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. If anybody has any thoughts, hop in.
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, it
Cool.
does make sense. Survivorship bias. As much as we want to focus on winners, the next few weeks may be the best spent looking at the worst teams or simply the losing rosters and identifying common characteristics in an effort to avoid repeating them. Yeah, it's really easy to just kind of focus on how well you did and then just kind of put those other guys to the back and just kind of forget, like, you know, what it was that ended you up in that spot in the first place. And like the sooner I think that you understand what happened exactly to those teams, especially the ones that you thought had longer legs than they do, it is always a good time to look at that. But again, you could give it a week.
No, for sure. For sure. I think this is more like off-season homework, to be honest, you know, because it is easy. It's easy to kind of just more so look at the winning rosters and be like, this is what I need to do to get there. But I think it's a harder thing to do to look at the losing ones and be like, how can I ensure that maybe my winning ones don't get here, or I just don't do this same thing again, unless it was like an intended result for some reason or another, you know, productive struggle, and you were like pushing yourself in a certain direction or something. But, you know, I think it's pretty clear the ones that, you know, have some problems or deficiencies or whatever, that's what you want to kind of look at here. And, you know, obviously we want to remember our winners, but if you want to kind of make your teams better, it's probably worth looking at the rosters that kind of stink.
Oh, a little Cam Ward, Selly. Yeah, I completely agree with this. And, you know, what I will say is always look at ways in which you can actually disrupt your league, especially if you think that your builds might be a little bit further off than competing in 2026. How can you differentiate or impact the league in the best way possible? Is there a way to take on more players at a certain position that will either limit or change the way in which that position is then valued? Are there ways to take on either more draft capital in the future so that it potentially corners the rest of the market? There's plenty of things you can do over, you know, the next few months before your rookie drafts start that can really kind of reshape what 2026 and onward looks like, even if your team isn't going to compete in 2026. So try and be creative, start looking at that.
Definitely.
Excellent. So here's just a random question, but like, what do we do with Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey? Like, these are guys that we talked about before the season started, and we're like, well, you probably shouldn't bet against them, but man, they're really up against this cliff that we've identified over the years through data. Like, not just like, oh, you know, they're over 28, like they're gonna suck forever. Like, but like, you can't write off Derrick Henry because he's just built different, and Christian McCaffrey has a whole season healthy. But man, like the value for them just has to be, they can't do it again, right?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly can. I definitely think so at this point. And this is one of the things we talked about early in the season or heading right into the season. I forgot exactly, you know, when it was, but it was kind of, you know, the mistakes we made looking at some of that data in terms of, you know, the players who, you know, have those, you know, crazy seasons in terms of carries or whatever it is, and kind of writing them off. It's like, yeah, sure. When it's not Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, or even Saquon Barkley, who's obviously not having the best year this year, but those still are the players that I think, you know, you want to kind of, you know, keep your eye on in terms of value. Like, if they're going to become a value, you probably want to get in on that. Like, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at. And as old as Derrick Henry is, after seeing like how he performed there and knowing that they're going to, you know, this team at some level is probably going to try to come back and, you know, become the team they were they once were. I don't know, or either that, or it just feels like he still has life in him. There's nothing about a 4 touchdown game, when the season's on the line, that you're like, that probably can't happen. And the same with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's actually only gotten better as the season's gone on and the team's gotten slightly healthier. And you're right, he has had a season without injury. Now, of course, that can all change. These guys are older, but again, I think these are the ones you have to bet on. So if you're going to head into the offseason, and Derrick Henry, if we're just talking right, about the outcome bias and that kind of stuff, if he has just a dud game, couple fumbles, he's going to be free all of a sudden. Not free, but he's going to come back to that, low second round value, something like that. Like, it may be worth on those contenders taking those kind of shots again. It probably is worth it. Not maybe, just given what we've seen here. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. And in fairness, this is something that I think I personally have been burned by in the past with other veteran running backs, and I've just kind of strayed away out of fear. And the fact is that we're not talking about any other veteran running backs. We're not talking about guys who are just other old running backs. Like, we're talking about elite running backs who will probably see the Hall of Fame. Like, that is as simple as it is. This isn't, Dalvin Cook at the end of his career. As much as Dalvin Cook had a great career, it's just not the same. It's going to be like, and that's where I have a lot of difficulty. Like, I'm already starting to do that with my Jonathan Taylor shares. We're talking about back-to-back seasons with over 300 carries. And I'm like, I'm trying to get ahead of it. And at the same time, I then look at myself and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I literally just watched Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey come back from a serious Achilles injury where he had arthritis I believe, in his Achilles. And then Derrick Henry didn't come off of an injury, but he came off of a very, very tiring year at 30 years old, where I was like, yeah, there's no way that he's going to repeat that. And the best part is that he did it without Lamar Jackson there for half the fucking season, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think Lamar missed 5 games or something along those lines. Like, it's borderline insane that he's had the year that he has and then decided to also win people championships this year. Like, straight up 46 points in standard PPR. Like, what are we doing? Like, it truly is just out of this world, like, how exceptional some of these guys are at the sport. And I don't think that we give them enough appreciation. And it's starting to make me question my own process with Jonathan Taylor in particular, Saquon Barkley as well, as kind of sitting there as like, was this Saquon's down year? And will he just have the bump up again? He is 29 going on 30, or 28 going on 29. Like, I have to be mindful of that. But yeah, I don't think that there's anything that we can necessarily take away from this, except for we have some elite running backs that are currently playing in the NFL. And I don't know if they necessarily play by the same rules as everybody else, unfortunately.
Definitely agree there. It really feels like Harbaugh was running the fantasy teams that were against me this week. It's insane. It's insane. Like, no reason for that last touchdown at all. What are we doing? It's just crazy. Amazing. Yeah, no, it's good stuff there. Real quick here, YouTube chat from earlier. Boo, take down Big Boy. Yeah, agreed. Do that. Come on, no new startup. We definitely, I think that was a joke maybe in terms of jumping into the offseason, but we will be doing DU6, and I think we have it like just over half filled maybe. So we'll be looking for a couple more listeners over the coming months here, and we'll get going sometime this offseason. It'll be fun. Yes, Ricky S. Quality offseason time is finally here. Definitely will be nice to take a little bit of a break. But with the end of my season, I will be really looking for a way to improve my future season. So I'll probably do more work this season than this offseason than I should be. Lefty Joe here. This season makes me question my life choices. For sure. I'm there with you, Joe. I'm there with you. Don't worry. We'll be here in solidarity. Oh, my goodness. All right. Keep it pushing.
All right. Illogical, atypical start-sit decisions. Should we largely ignore the optimizers and projections in Week 17, given all the injuries and decisions to not play normal lineups due to standings, like Las Vegas and the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, this comes a little bit for sure from anecdotal experience, but there was a situation where I pick up Michael Mayer knowing that Bowers is going to be out, and there was some clear I mean, not even clear. There's one, I mean, just think about like Justin Jefferson, right? Who's projected to score more points than Michael Mayer, but you know damn well it's very possible he doesn't based on this season. You know what I mean? And you're just like, it's like, you almost can't do it, right? Like you almost can't for some reason do it. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there can, maybe they do, but I find it personally very hard to, you know, push that button. Or even, you know, Kenny Gainwell with no DK Metcalf, knowing that he's had, you know, 7 catches the past like 4 weeks or whatever it's been. And you're like, well, that has to happen again, right? Especially in this game. And the same thing. But then in hindsight, I'm like, and of course hindsight's 2020 for sure, but still I'm like, I picked up Michael Mayer and I knew in my brain, I'm like, he's going to get a bunch of catches this week. You know what I mean? He's going to. And if I started him, I win this matchup, you know? And so like I'm asking myself, like in the future, is it like, do I need to push against the projections? You know what I mean? And I think there is like, you know, what I'm alluding to is like, there's some like authority bias. First of all, it's like, you know, these experts have created these projections, so I got to follow them. Right. And then it's also, like responsibility aversion too, where you're like, well, you know, I'm following what, you know, the projections, like that's what the, you know, and so it takes some responsibility off of you being the one making the wrong decision. So I think there's like a couple things at play there going on, and like worrying about looking stupid by making that decision if it really failed, and then like your opponent and your league mates may just like, you know, clown you the whole time. You know, so there's like a whole bunch of psychological factors going on there that I feel like we need to like, that are worth discussing and worth maybe suppressing in the future. Because one thing it does do is it compresses your decision making in a way that limits the potential range of outcomes of your overall roster, right? Like if you play that way by the projections, there's almost nobody from your bench that's ever going to get in your starting lineup, right? Like why would they? So I really do think we need to get, you know, find ourselves a way to get outside the box a little bit when it comes to those start sit decisions, especially late in the season when so many things are changing because these teams are not playing the same way they were playing, or are playing for different reasons, and or there's injuries or whatever it may be. There's just so many things. So yeah, long-winded, sorry, but thoughts?
Yeah, like I think what you're alluding to here is more, and you said it, like it's like situation specific. Like when it comes down to like 1 or 2 players that their situations have changed here slightly. My experience is that projections aren't going to change all that much because they're experts, right? They're afraid to go outside the box as well, right? So, you know, they're going to try to keep the status quo to keep their, you know, not to look too crazy to their followers or whatever the hell it is. But like in a situation, like you said with Meyer, like I feel like you could have started him comfortably because that's still a good play. Like, and you knew it was a good play, right? I just think that the other part that you're talking about, like the way that you're getting clowned, like in the chat, like nobody cares. Like everyone's worried about, especially finals week. They're just looking at their own shit. So I wouldn't take that into consideration. Like in the future, I would block that part out at all. And who cares what it looks like? Like you've been successful in Dynasty. Like you are
for sure.
Like you are good. Like you don't have to prove you're good. Like you have a track record of winning. So that part I would just, who gives a shit? But I do think there are certain situations where like things change, you know, injuries, and then also like suspensions at the end of the year, just little things like that. Like at that point in time, yeah, you can put other people's experts' projections kind of out of the way and just do your own thing because you're smart, and it still would have been a good play. At the end of the day, even if it didn't play out, if you did put in Meyer and you still lost, I doubt it's because you played Meyer. Like that's still
fair.
It's still a good play.
That's fair.
That's all. Like
Jake, you got anything?
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing for me is like you got to where you are with whatever your process was from the onset. And I'm a firm believer of just trying to stick with whatever your process was and not trying to change it up too much. So if you have been making these types of situational starts decisions all season long, then you should be doing it in the finals, and you shouldn't be using a standard optimizer as your sole solution. But if you have been using a standard optimizer as your sole solution, then go with that process. Like, don't try and big brain your last moment to take on like this opportunity, because you're going to hate yourself more for whatever the decision is if it goes wrong, if you change it. Like, that is the way that I see it. And like, I would rather tell myself at the end of the day, like, whatever my decision or my process was from the onset is what needs to get worked on if it doesn't work out. So for instance, in this instance, if you did say that you've been using an optimizer all year long, you get to the final, which by all means, if you got to the final and it's because you used the optimizer, I'd say probably helped. And you happen to lose.
I didn't, but yeah, fair.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
To Uriah's point, like starting Mayor, I don't think the optimizer is at fault for you losing. Like, just because that is the instance in this particular case, like, we get so attached to, I think, what ends up occurring in that immediacy. And we think that that is what is inherently wrong with the process. And so for me, most importantly, like, I believe that there are multiple ways into finding like what is your best process. And the best way to do that is to then test it across multiple different teams. So instead of just doing the same thing across all of your teams, like maybe approach them differently when we're talking about start-sit decisions. Like for me, with regards to strategy, I do feel like what?
Nothing.
What the regards sounded
We'll be okay.
It was
Everyone will be okay.
Came out of my it was a D that came out of my mouth. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, this is like the Asians conversation a few weeks back. Yeah. Fuck.
Wow, without context, that is hilarious.
Yes, the aging running backs conversation that turned into the Asian running backs. Anyway,
we're so stupid. It's insane.
Oh god. Thanks, Roy, for catching me on that shit though. But in all seriousness, like I do feel like I played a bunch of different strategies when I first started Dynasty, and I've now really kind of honed in on what I really want to be doing across multiple builds, depending on the individual scoring settings. And so, like for me, if you are so dead set on there's multiple options for you, test those options. Like, and don't change it out every single year because you'll drive yourself crazy. Like, if you have 12 teams, play a quarter of them going in their own particular ways for start-sit decisions. And I think that will just, greatly benefit the way in which you handle maybe taking losses in the finals, especially when it comes down to this.
I actually love I do love the suggestion. Honestly, the comments are making me laugh, but I'll throw them up here in a few minutes. But the suggestion to try out different strategies in different leagues does kind of speak to me a little bit. Because like I do feel like I want to be a little more aggressive in my start-sit decisions, where applicable, not across the board, not necessarily just like, oh, this guy is going to score 2 points this week, throw him in for Drake London. Nobody's doing that shit. Nobody's saying to for sure, but just I think the scenario that I chose, I guess to come up with this topic from is kind of the one I'm talking about, is something where I want to be a little more aggressive in. So I probably will try that, maybe pick a league at the beginning of the season, or maybe you might have to do it throughout because you don't know exactly where your team's going to be. But like, all right, this one, I think I need to be a little more aggressive in and see how it works out. But okay, let me hit the comments here real quick. This was actually good. He, in terms of, lineup picking and whatnot, like picking up Gesicki in the quarterfinals and losing by 5 instead of, I think the other two starts were, was it Waller or something, or I don't even know who it was. It was two other very mediocre tight ends that ended up scoring like exactly the points he would have needed, I think, to win.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks back on the trade conversation, but I think that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean it was
Dawson Knox and Johnny Smith. Yep.
Yeah, and you can't really blame him for wanting better than that. But maybe we go out for better than Gesicki next time. But that said, that's where it's like that's exactly the, I guess, risk of doing what I'm saying, is like you get too cute and then you really feel like shit about it. So to your point, Jake, it's like if you're kind of like second guessing yourself, you're gonna really feel bad about it at the end. So you kind of want to have your strategy like set, so you kind of know what you're getting into at the end of the day. Anyway, Lefty Joe here. Asian running backs for the win. If you know, you know. Charbs had a solid game. Follow up to that.
He did.
Love it. He did. Love that. All right. Wait, we got more here. In the best ball league, Jake tried losing. It worked. Best ball, man. Yeah. See, do you see what I'm talking about? Dynasty best ball, Jake? It's not that fun, is it?
No, it's not. For me, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's for others. Other people, you can play it. Yeah, no, I have not been enjoying my own decision making so far. So yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah, don't yuck anybody's yum. Enjoy
Yuck
yourself.
anybody's yum.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Moving on. Navigating the emotional roller coaster / damage control. So, how do you handle the pain of having so much success until the final week? It sucks.
I don't know.
I feel this is all for Billy. No.
Wow. You guys are just so fortunate.
No, man, it does suck. It does suck, because I mean, I'm not going to try to rub it in, but like we went to the first episode, we're talking about when we first got into the playoffs, how many buys we got, how many teams we got, throw it up on a spreadsheet, and Billy's on cloud 9. And now it's like, I want to lift my boy up. And I don't know how, because
that's good.
It's brutal. It's brutal. It just happened last night. But at the end of the game, you made it to the championships. A lot of your teams made it to the championship. You got second. First is really hard. You got to tell yourself that. Like, coming in first is hard. There's at least in any given dynasty league, 8 of those teams are truly trying to get there. You got there in most of your leagues. You just didn't get the championship, and that sucks. It does. But you just got to be happy you got there. I mean, there's at least another 7 other teams that would have loved to be in your shoes.
I love how this turned into a direct, make me feel better. That is not what I intended this to be, but I appreciate it. That's amazing.
I'm done.
I mean, what you said is true. I think everybody should think that, though. Should definitely think like, hey, like I got a lot of teams kind of in the dance at the very least, right? And if you did get 50% of your teams to the semis, like a lot of us did on here, you should feel great about that for sure. And you should kind of lean back on that that episode, or that if you're doing that analysis of yourself, you should lean back on that at the end of the year or heading into the playoffs, like how well you've done, right? I can't look at the comments. But you should kind of hold on to how well you did, as a whole on the year, because obviously there is a lot of luck involved in the playoffs. So the skill is, kind of built through the journey for sure. But also for me, like, as much as, we're talking about at the beginning, like, take some time, do your thing. Like, for me, getting right back into it, in a sense, in terms of like building and trying to optimize and trying to find ways to do a little bit better. I think that's what gets my mind off of it too. So I think that's part of, at least for me, what I'd be doing to kind of not think about this so much. Real quick here, comments. Let's go through some of these. Joe, I'm still emotionally wrecked. Been walking around the house all day in a bathrobe looking lost. Last night I was definitely like, what is happening? What is happening? I was in bed screaming at the Puka touchdown or non-touchdown. And then them not being able to extend the game. Like, it's just insane. What are they doing? Ricky here, embrace hating to lose, Mamba mentality. Uriah with the don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened approach. Yeah, for sure. We're just going to try to make Billy laugh the whole night, pretty much. That's what appreciate it. Okay, Jake, any thoughts on this topic here? Just navigating the roller coaster at the end of the season.
Yeah. I won't talk about it with just the final week. I think like the whole playoff process is that same sensation, kind of what Tony was talking about before. Like you're working on this team or multiple teams for 14 weeks. Like this is, and that's just the NFL season. We're not talking about all of the weeks and months prior to the NFL season that you're putting forth effort looking at prospect profiles. Like shout out Tony. I know he puts forth a shit ton of effort. He makes his own rankings. He does a lot of tape reviews. Like we put forth so much energy and effort into the pre-analysis. To half these players, we won't ever end up rostering because we don't think that they're good enough or we don't like aspects of their game. And the fact is that when any small thing knocks you away from success, whether that's you bounce out from a wild card spot because of a bad matchup, or your team has a ton of injuries midway through the season and you just don't have the draft capital to recycle into a contending roster, or whatever it might be, like those parts of like managing the emotional side of the game to me are some of the most challenging. And like all I'm here to do for myself when I'm playing is try and get my builds to the place in which makes the most sense. And so what I just want to say here is like, if you have a good understanding of what your team is unable to do, attack that. Like, I think too much of the time we think of always the best. We never think of the worst. And so if you can find out those weaknesses ahead of time, start attacking them without others kind of preparing for them. And then that allows for you to then, take on the opportunity of, let's say you do have a plethora of injuries and you are no longer in playoff contention. Make sure that you have your picks before everyone is aware of that. Make sure that you are in a proper spot to benefit from, to make sure that the rest of the league isn't able to adapt to your shortcomings. And it doesn't have to be like instantaneous success because, we always talk about having a project plan going into the season. It doesn't have to be exactly what you set it out to be because we do know that the narrative doesn't always align with that. But I do think that we have so much to gain from being able to pivot properly. And that has a lot to do with being able to understand some things just don't pan out the way that you want them to. And someone like that was probably Brian Thomas Jr. Like he's a great example of this. Early this season, there was a time to realize that Brian Thomas Jr. realistically didn't have the rope to be able to get you to where you needed to be from a scoring perspective. And that isn't me giving up on the prospect. That isn't giving up on the profile. I just mean like he was no longer a startable option in your team as you continue to work through the season. And what does that mean for your team? If you don't have the draft capital, turn him into some liquid assets. There's going to be other people within the leagues that you're playing in that will probably want him. If for whatever reason he's not being valued at some type of peak value within your league, hold on to him and make sure that you are going to maintain that value accordingly. Lastly, I think like the most important thing with regards to understanding kind of like that window of a Brian Thomas Jr., for instance, is also just like making sure to understand what his impact is on your specific team. So if you have 12 potential starters, but you have a 10 start league, it's not as big of a deal because there's going to be other ways to cycle that type of player out without taking on a massive value loss on that roster. And that's the kind of like feedback that I don't think like a lot of us give ourselves like while we're going through that process. Instead, we just kind of like force Brian Thomas Jr. into our fucking roster. And we're like, he's going to make it work. Or we do the opposite. And we're like, Brian Thomas is no longer working for my roster. I'm going to sell light. And I sell him for a first or something along those lines just to get off, to cycle that first into AJ Brown or something like that. And like that process is fine. I just think that you end up losing out on a lot of long-term value on your rosters, which is what really is going to be that like contingency plan that you're talking about when we were talking about like what does dynasty mean or things like that, like being able to turn that over year. That's kind of the process that I think we need to be more mindful of.
Wow, I loved how you turned the pain conversation into like a process conversation. It actually makes sense, obviously, because it also will lessen your pain long term. If you do these things, you will not feel as bad about the work you put in, right? And like Tony's point here, which I didn't bring up earlier, just that you alluded to. Does anyone get as pissed as me after all the time I put into this shit, then losing the championship or not even make the playoffs? I know it's part luck, but damn, it grinds my gears. And that's such a real feeling, like very relatable. Like Jake was saying, like you put all that work in. But I think also, to Jake's point, in those in those scenarios where you really can make a difference on your team and you can notice it, and you just continue to force things through or make a bad decision because of it, like that's where if you come in with a plan and you kind of really try to stick with it, it's in your process. That's part of it too. Stick with it. You're going to feel a lot better about the things that you did at the end of the season, knowing that it probably was mostly luck, right? You're hoping that that's what it was, that like at the end of the year, you're not going to be like, was it the shit that I was doing that kind of went wrong? And with all the work we put in it, it's probably not that. But obviously those micro decisions are always going to hang on to. So you just want to try to get better in the margins always. Okay.
One last thought on that, just to
hop in.
Make you feel better if any of these things had happened to you. So we had first week of the playoffs, we had Michael Pitts, Pitts, insane week. Kyle, that's called Michael Penix. Kyle Pitts, amazing season, came out of nowhere and probably bounced some really good teams that might have gone on further. The next week, Puka Nacua goes off, insane, probably bounced some teams that were even better than the Puka team at the time. And then again, here in the finals, you had Derrick Henry. So if any of those things happen to you, like, it sucks and it hurts, but it's like, these things do come up and it's kind of out of your reach. Like, you might have still put together a really good team. Now, add Pitts and you got bounced first week, then your team probably wasn't ready. Puka Nacua and Henry. But, those are just some things that are out of your control. Just
no, that's actually a really good point too. The roster I lost on, where I just needed a couple more from Puka, is like Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, CD. All of them had really mediocre games. I mean, Amon-Ra had the best game and he had 14 points, and then Puka had 15, right? And then Harold Fannin goes out in the first quarter, which we should have known, but that's what that happens there, right? And it's like, there's almost every player on my team. Jonathan Taylor had a good week, but not a great week, right? It's like, that's a great roster. Like if you just heard the names I just spit out, like that's a great fucking roster. So it's like, I know I put together a good roster, and the people in that league just said like, you're cursed because I'm in the finals almost every year and I don't win. And it's one of those things. So you do have to recognize the difference between that kind of roster and what Uriah was talking about, but then in the middle, kind of what Jake's talking about, when you're building these things out, you have to make sure that, you're not you're not regretting decisions, and you're kind of, optimally moving through these things, a la BTJ, and taking advantage of his value or not getting over your skis on the loss in value too. That's the other end of the coin there, other side of the coin.
Cool. I did sell BTJ in November, though. Feeling pretty good about that. Okay. Trades and non-trades?
Yeah. I mean, I think the last thing I wanted to say, because I do think this is like an interesting thing, and we've been talking psychology quite a bit on this episode, but just the idea of loss aversion, right? Where it's like, losing hurts more than the pleasure of winning. And so we often play not to lose, at least with our emotions. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't know. It's just, I think we do need to, at the very least, bask in the glory of winning a little bit more than we do kind of, sulk in the pain of this thing. So quickly get over it. That's my biggest thing right now. I'm like, let me just try to quickly get over it, move on. That's how it goes sometimes. And there's going to be better years and there's going to be worse years. So you just got to kind of roll with the punches. And, if you follow your process, you're probably going to build really good teams, have a really fun season like I did, win a lot of games, and, feel good about it. And then, sometimes you're going to have to feel the pain at the end of it. That's how it goes. That's the game we play.
Do you guys feel like you feel that more in DU specific leagues where you are, you're playing with your listeners, not your listeners, they're not ours. We don't own anyone. But you know what I mean?
They're mine. They're my listeners. Yeah, for sure. I think so. Even if it's subconsciously, but yeah, I mean, even you guys talking at the beginning of this episode, you're like, yeah, we won you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, these guys won these two, but it's like, that's a great feeling. And, you want to also have that at the very least, like you want to also have that. So it does hurt worse sometimes when you can't push through, or what really hurts worse more than anything. Like, I mean, I have, DU4, DU5, I think in the semis. So I'm good there. DU1, I have a very clear path. The ones that hurt the most are DU2. DU3 also have a pretty decent team, but it's a little less clear. But DU2 hurts really the most because I'm like, I really completely fucked this team up in a listener league where I do want to put on my, or put my best foot forward at the very least. And feel like I just kept making the wrong decisions somehow in that league, or just kind of, making almost too many decisions, just doing too much, trying to get somewhere. But yeah, one way or another, it hurts worse, I think, when I'm there than if I am competitive at least and still lose. That's, who cares about that, I guess. So yeah, but definitely hurts worse than, I mean, that all the leagues I run are with friends or kind of stuff like that. And so those all hurt the worst. The one I'm in, with other analysts in the community, it's whatever, I lost that one. I don't really know them that well. And I do want to obviously perform really well there. But when I know people personally, like we do with our Discord, and I know you guys, I know, it's that's, and when I say hurt, but it's just it's affects you more because you care, you know these people. So yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I think so. Just because we do this and we talk every week, and we give bad advice, and you do want to be seen as somebody who's doing what they're saying and then applying it and having it be seen as and proven to be successful at some level.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, why the hell are you tuning in, right? I mean, I don't know. You're here for advice, so it's you do want to show that, hey, the way I do work my teams is on some level successful, whether I'm trying to move in one direction or the other. Did I accomplish that? And I would hate to at least not at some high percentage of the leagues effectively do what I set out to do. And I talk about them all the time on here. Not every single league are you going to be actively trying to get the championship because you're sitting in a situation where you do have to rebuild. Did you do that effectively? And did you communicate on here, on the live and in the Discord with the people that you're hoping you're not to embarrass yourself in front of? So yeah, in a way it does. The leagues where I don't know anybody or maybe know one person, I just don't care as much. It's not as personal, right?
Yeah.
That's why I still think if you still have your original home league that you started when you were in high school, winning those or losing those sucks. Because it's just it just means more. So it just does.
Yeah, winning those home leagues, man, that shit hits I won't say it hits you know what I was about to say, but I have no idea what that hits. To be honest,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's euphoric.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure
that's awesome.
Is. I thought about testing it last night while my heart rate was at an all-time high.
Well, my teams are failing me.
Yeah, literally. Honestly, that Puka play on the sideline, while they were overly reviewing it to see whether or not he actually caught it, and the ball slowly falls out of his hands midair, I was just holy fuck, I just won. And then I realized that there was another fucking play right after that, and then I was like, oh my god, I might have just cursed myself. But yeah,
the only play those refs got right.
Yeah, they did. Funny enough, I do agree. I think the home leagues though are the ones that hit the worst for me when I'm unsuccessful, and it's just simply the fact that I know that others in those leagues are just not putting forth as much effort. Yeah. And that really fucks with my head. I'm this motherfucking bozo has done zero work, and they drafted a absolute dog water team, and they are sitting here in the finals with a team that should not be there, right? That happened to Billy. Added me this year to a redraft league of literal bums. It's 9 complete inept fantasy people, and they even said so to Billy in like a text. They're like, Billy, like, we know that you're really good at fantasy, but you want to play. And then Billy's like, hey, you want to be my co-manager? Oh yeah, sure.
It was exactly how it went, but it was, I mean,
I paraphrased, but that was the general idea. Like, Billy, you're a fucking god at fantasy. Please join our league. Something along those lines. But anyway, we lost in the semis. Like, and I looked at the two rosters that were in the final, and I'm just like, there's absolutely no reason for us to not be in this and winning right now. And it's just like one of those situations where you go through that process. Same thing with like League of Legends, where like things just went wrong for me in that league this year. And I knew that there wasn't really that much saving. So I just decided not to push as hard as I did. Like in DU3, for instance, where I had a couple of injuries like Malik Neighbors and decided to like re-roll that into other talent. I didn't do that in League of Legends, but like watching one of those managers be in the final and his team being like literally shit off my ass, like that hurt me deep to my core. Like that team doesn't belong anywhere near a final in year 2. Like that team should be sitting there somewhere at like 7th or 8th place and just barely looking at the rest of the group saying, man, I don't know why Dynasty is so hard. But instead, he's sitting there in the final and has a 50-50 shot at potentially winning. Thank God he got blown out of the water, or else I think I would have quit that league. But like that for me is definitely the most challenging aspect of this entire fucking game. Like, I don't know why. I just don't want to get beat by people who are just throwing darts everywhere, and then somehow it hits and it works. Like,
even worse, that manager told me that they never opened the app.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Honestly,
I think I said he asked me how much the payouts were, and I was like, it's pinned in the chat, and he's like, where is that? I never opened this app. And I'm like, I literally didn't respond. And I think I forgot what I did. I sent him like what the actual dues were like much later or something. I don't know what the payouts were. I was like, that got me. I was like, oh my God. Like, especially because like my team is really solid in that league, like has like an amazing like starting roster. And I'm just like, what? Like, it's just one of those years, same as you, Jay, kind of thing. But I did want to circle back before we move to Dynasty Trades on what Uriah said, because I think that is really what it is for me. And that's the main thing, is that like, we do straight up, like we do come on here and we say exactly what we like, the things we will do, right? Like we will talk exactly about those things and we will try to go do them. And I want those things to not, to not look stupid, but I want them to help people at the end of the day, right? And I want them to be effective, and I want that to show in the teams that we produce at the end of the day. And honestly, I mean, I think as a whole, we do that. Like, Josh isn't on here anymore, but his teams do pretty well too. All of us on here have done pretty well. Like we do kind of walk the walk as much as, I think we can, but that's the thing with like DU2 that hits the worst. When you're asking me, it's like, do the DU leagues, matter more or whatever? It's like, that is what bothers me. It's like, this is such a bad example of like my game in a sense, or whatever it is, however you want to put it. And so, yeah, those definitely hit the worst when you feel like you're not putting forth, I guess, like what the actual abilities are in some sense. But yeah, the way you said it, right, really hit home. So good stuff there. We can move on to Dynasty Trades.
Cool. Trades and non-trades. DU2, Brian Thomas Jr. for 26 first and a 26 third.
Oh man. So my boy Matt, shout out. Oh man. I understand it. Like I get why you would do this at the, I guess at the point he did it, I'm not sure, because I think there, like, it's not like he was in need of points, and obviously he's going the other direction's picks, but it's like, could you have gotten this leading up to the draft? Could you have gotten more holding on to him with some offseason hype? I don't know. But again, I understand it, because we were talking about Brian Thomas Jr. earlier. Like, his value has been in such flux over the course of this year. At one point, he was worth 2 firsts at the very least, heading into this year. And then now he's worth this or less. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like I still want to lean on the Brian Thomas Jr. side here personally. thinking that there will be a little bit more value to extract, even if it's a first and a second type thing. I also, this isn't necessarily the class I'd want to buy into. If I'm doing something like this, I probably want to maybe push for 27, though obviously the picks will gain value. But yeah, for me, it's a little light on the pick side, but I can understand. I can understand it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Excuse me. Oh my God. Sorry. I thought I was muted. And then I realized as I looked down, my bad. The only thing I'm going to add here is that with this trade coming after Matt dropping Caleb Johnson in the same league, like a week before that, or like 4 days before that, like I'm literally just like watching the value from this dude's roster just like slowly disintegrate. Like you're talking about what was at one time probably equivalent to close to 4 firsts between those two guys. And he turned that into a first and a third. And the first is the 109. Like we're not even talking about a true mid first. And it's just, this is what I'm talking, like this is bad process. Like this is genuinely bad process. And this is not knowing how to manage your rebuilding.
Hope you're
roster.
watching, Matt.
Yeah, I hope you are, because like this isn't me like saying it like as like a personal like attack on you. Like this is more so things that I see all the time across leagues, and it's like know where you want to go. Like Brian Thomas Jr., if he was the pinnacle piece that you were willing to work through at the start of the season as like your stud wide receiver, that's fine. But then don't give up on that vision unless you're just completely off of him now and you're like, he's now equivalent to the 109. Like there's got to be a middle ground here. It's like either you sell him at your peak, which is what you should have done, in my opinion, or you hold on past whatever this point is, because there's not going to be significantly lower than the 109 in a random third, in my opinion. And the same thing with Caleb Johnson. You drafted him at the 111, I think it was, and he's now on someone else's roster for free. Like, this is not the way in which you take a rebuilding team and you turn it into a contender in a small period of time. This is how you take a rebuilding team and you're now going to rebuild for another 3 probably seasons, given kind of the rest of where your roster is. And it's just about being like managing your own expectations of like what you're trying to do and how to get there the fastest. And this is how you basically stagnate or prevent that from happening.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You got any other feedback?
No, that was pretty good.
Well, yeah. Oh God, that in unison with the Caleb Johnson one definitely enhances the
Rip.
I guess the value loss. But yeah. Okay, we can move forward.
All right. Sergeant Peppers, Huntley, and which Willis?
This is Malik Willis.
Malik Willis for Tesla and Jordan Mason. Jake is going to provide some context.
So we talked about this league. It's a 12-team Superflex PPR, tiered PPR, sorry. And it has a couple of additional bonuses, points per first down. The context here is this trade happens about 30 minutes before the Saturday night game, or whatever time that kickoff was. One of the finals teams literally only has, I believe it was Geno Smith and maybe a bag of bones, something like that. And decided to pick up 2 bags of bones for Isaac Tesla and Jordan Mason. But what are you doing? Like, is this a type of move that you guys would do before the final if all you got really is Geno Smith to throw out there?
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Obviously, I'd feel much more confident. You also have Malik Willis had a decent game the prior week, so you have at least a proof of concept there. And you have seen Tyler Huntley in the past run the offense. This isn't the first time he's done this in Baltimore. So, like, you do have proof of concepts for what you're getting here. It's not just going out and getting, some randomness to fill it in. So I'm cool with that. And especially if I'm in the finals, like, first of all, Jordan Mason, like, do not care whatsoever. No. I didn't care about him at the beginning of the season either. No. Okay. And I was pretty vocal about that. Tesla, obviously, he's an interesting piece. Totally get that. But again, at this point, like, you're willing to give that up to get 2 starting quarterbacks in your lineup, bottom line. Yes. So I think this is a really heady play. It's cheap. You won't regret much of it, right? No matter which way it worked out. And so, yeah, man, like, this is a great, concept to take forward into the future. Like if you run into a situation like this, don't feel afraid to sell your, copium 4th round pick, Isaac Tesla, and some random, Jordan Mason. Like, we've seen the heights of Jordan Mason, and they are not here in Minnesota or the future. So.
Yeah, completely agree. It was really funny when this trade came through. I took a screenshot of it. I think I was like literally flying. I sent it to Billy, and I was just like, I think this trade is going to like really propel this final. It might even help this dude win. And yeah, sure as shit, he ends up winning by literally like half a point. Shout out Joe. He was
amazing.
He said it in the comments. He unfortunately did lose to this trade and to this manager. Shout out to Frank Bros or Tristan Iston in the chat.
Yeah, shout out.
This was a absolute killer of a trade. Honestly, this was just like one of those trades where I saw it happen. I saw his team. I just realized who his other quarterbacks were. It was JJ McCarthy, who was no longer
a bag
active.
Of bones, right?
It was no longer active due to injury. And yeah, no, like this is exactly what you need to do to make sure that you can win your final. Like, you know what? You're down on some luck. You fucking push that shit out and you end up creating a win out of basically nothing. So
I'm shocked that Joe didn't have these quarterbacks on his roster.
That's a great point, honestly.
I've seen a lot of Joe's rosters, and he's the type to have these backup quarterbacks. So
yeah,
that's on you, Joe.
Yeah.
I will say,
in fairness, he does have, I think, 6 quarterbacks on the bench on this league. But yeah, it was Chris Illogical and Josh Johnson and Max Brosmer. So no one was trading for either of those, or any of those. But he was still going by that same approach. So cool. Shout out to Bibby for. I think he's also in our Discord. Shout out to Bibby for rostering those instead.
Yeah. I will say that's a trade that'll make you fall in love with Fantasy Dynasty.
Yeah.
Like if you're on the winning side of that, like you will just like remember that for the rest of your days. Like that's just such a killer on point trade.
They'll never advocate for a trade deadline either.
And again, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's actually amazing. And that's one that didn't really help the rebuilder as much as it could have. But again, these are nothing assets. So it's like, if you get beat by that, man, you got to eat that. If you get beat by Malik Willis and Tyler Huntley, it just wasn't your goddamn day, dude. Like that's how it goes. Yeah. Oh my God. I honestly would have lost my mind though, for sure. But this is the thing. I've never lost in one of these finals and thought to myself, trade deadline is what did it to me. We should implement a trade deadline. I've never finished one of these games and been like, oh shit, like he got that guy a week ago. Like, get over it, man. That's not even what you're thinking about at that point. So yeah. Anyway,
can I provide one last anecdote only because Billy knows this and Uriah, you don't. So Billy and I had the luxury of being able to watch football together last weekend. It was beautiful. We made out the entire time, and as you could imagine. But the best part is this poor man picks up sandwiches for the group of us as we're about to watch these games because he's a great friend. And my dad bombards him with this absolute ridiculous anecdote about how the guy that he's competing against in the semifinals bought Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamar Chase for Emeka Buka, Brian Thomas Jr., Justin Jefferson in a first. So it came at a pretty hefty cost, but I think it was we talked about the trade. It was a pretty fair trade both ways, but I think all of us said it's the Amon-Ra Chase Brown side, Jamar Chase side. Like pretty much. Very much that's the case. But here's the best part. My dad as like a fucking petty motherfucker the entire time. He was like, but I can't be happy about that trade. Like, why are we doing these trades in the playoffs? And I'm just like, there's no trade deadline, my man. Like, that's how the league works. And then this motherfucker, before the final, buys Chase Brown before the final. And he does the same shit. And you can't look in the mirror. You can't look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I did the same thing. And it almost won me a championship. And I was just like, we need to be realistic with ourselves and see that there is some value here to making trades in the playoffs. And the funny thing is that both his competitor in the semifinals and him lost after making these trades. So
Oh,
It
that's
really
even
goes to
better. I
show.
forgot they had midweeks. I forgot Jamar Chase had like an 8-point game or whatever that week or something
He
like
did,
that.
yeah.
Oh my God, that makes it even better though. That like he
And
was like, yeah, well,
Chase Brown
I
went
don't
off
have to be
though in the
happy
finals.
about it.
Yeah,
That's what
like
he
Chase
kept
Brown,
saying.
to
He's
my
like,
dad's defense, went off. Yeah,
he did.
he was
He
losing
did.
his
He
mind.
did.
He was losing his mind,
Yeah.
man. He's losing it. And I like poor Billy was just getting fucking rammed in the face with it as
Well-
soon as he comes into the house, and he's just like, "Hey, Larry, hey," and he's just like,
I love
"This
those
motherfucker bought
conversations.
Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the playoffs. Why are we trading in the playoffs?" But in fairness,
Just
it was
like
only his
that
second
though,
year
just like
playing.
his dad is a character, like he is, but I will say it probably drives Jay crazy, but he is hilarious and very fun to watch football with. It's amazing. It is amazing. I literally might go over there by myself because I forgot how fun it was like as a kid. It's so great. But real quick here, Joe in the comments, still in the process of losing my mind. Bathrobe, man, bathrobe.
All right, man.
Oh,
Drinking
man, it's all good.
questions like Big Lebowski, just bumming up.
Yes, that's the vision I have right now.
You
That's
could do that.
amazing.
That's okay. That's fine. That's part of the healing process.
Oh God, so
All right.
good. All
Last
right,
one before we get out of here. We got the third party league. It's a tiered PPR, 1 quarterback plus 2 superflex. Lamar, Brenton Strange. Shout out Brenton Strange. I think we should go acquire Brenton Strange, by the way, guys. A 26 mid second for Herbert, Chris Rodriguez, and Kenny G. That's funny. I still see Kenny G, and I still think about Babytron, but that's beside the point. Shout out,
Like,
yeah.
There's so much context, obviously, that kind of needs to go with this, I guess. But
That's fine.
I mean, it literally doesn't matter to me because, like, I just look at this trade and it's Lamar like the whole way, no matter what the context is. But go ahead, Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So context here is this is a guillotine league that cuts every single year 2 players. I've talked about it a little bit, I think, over the years. But context here is that in the playoffs, the bottom half of the league basically plays for their lives. And this was the final week of the losers. So the 2 teams that lost in their 2 matchups end up getting cut. So those 4 teams are basically this like open market of folks who are going to do literally anything to try and save themselves. And with Lamar out this week, I took advantage of it. Not to be a dickhead, but I think like in a completely fair and valid way, I think I sent out the initial offer. Was it actually less advantageous than this? And this is what the counter was. And it just happened to work out that way. But regardless, that is the context. So this is like someone trying to save their lives. And in fairness to them, they were successful. They DM'd me afterward and were like, I actually didn't even need this trade. I got really lucky with my matchup this week because the other guy's team just like had a terrible week. So he could have actually started without a quarterback in one of those super flex positions. But that all being said, he wanted the insurance policy.
Wow. That's that's bizarre. But yeah, of course, like if you can take advantage of a team like that and grab what I personally think Lamar is going to bounce back next year. I mean, it's plenty young enough and injury riddled season. Got to think that that's going to come back around. So yeah.
It's not very close. So yeah, good job. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I think we we had a good therapy session today. Yeah,
it's needed. It's a long season. Get your mentals right, and then we'll get back into some prospects. And Billy's still got an NFL team to root for. Jake and I do not.
Yeah, it hurts.
So there's that.
I never root for my team.
Yeah, AFC champs. Yeah, because you always want them to lose so you can get a number 1 pick.
Well, no, we've now failed that 2 years in a row. Yeah. Billy. We're so bad that we suck so much at sucking that we still can't get the 101 2 years in a row. That is honestly an achievement, and we're going to keep our GM. So things are looking up.
Oh man.
New York.
Get those mentals right, boys. Get those mentals right.
I was going to say, I thought I exercised my demons on this episode, but then I realized the Giants are still fucking with me. So Yeah.
I will say I am really excited to get into the prospects. So
Me too.
that's the other thing that's definitely gonna get me through this and kind of push me into something else. Like I'm gonna probably start watching prospects really soon here and start grading things out and just getting into that whole wave, man. It's just a whole different kind of mindset. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. We'll have a ton of content around that. So yeah, this is good though. Hope
Cool.
everybody had a good season and won some leagues.
Yeah, and if it was because of us, let us know that we did it and that you owe us about 5% of your winnings.
We accept tips. You know. So, all right, guys. See you guys next week. Thanks for being here, especially those live with us on the YouTube. That's always very cool. Join the Discord if you're not already in there. And other than that, I hope you had a really good season and hope to see you guys back next week.
Peace out, fam.